You might have heard a saying, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And honestly, I really love that because it's so true. And sadly, most people are not measuring, especially their finances. Let me ask you, what is your saving rate on a monthly basis? How much was your personal profit at the end of last month from all your income minus your expenses? And lastly, what is your net worth? If you put all your assets together minus the liabilities, what is that number? Is it 50,000, 100,000, 1 million? A lot of people, unfortunately, don't have answers to that question. Well, of course, you can live your life without knowing those numbers, but obviously my mission is to help people get on top of their finances. That's why it's called Smart Money with Kai. And in this video, I really want to help you to do just that, really managing your finances. How much do you spend? How much do you have? What is your net worth? And where are all your various investments allocated? Where are they? How do you track them? And from my experience, when I speak to people, as I also do personal consultations, and if you're interested, you find my link down in the description below to book your one-on-one call with me. And a lot of people are a little bit scared to actually start it, because from what I hear, when people say, but you know, Kai, if I start measuring, I'm worried that I might be spending too much. And I'll say, well, yeah, that's actually a problem. So it's good if you realize that you're spending too much. So then we can find ways to combat that and lower your spending. Or if you want to keep on spending, which is also totally fine, right? I'm a fan of, living a life that you enjoy, right? Don't just cut all your expenses, but then maybe look at options how you can increase your salary, right? But if you don't know any of that, then you're just guessing. And that's usually not a good approach to build your wealth over time, right? And the second equation is the net worth. Now, again, it's a number that for me is super important and relevant. And I love to track that on a monthly basis. But some people say, Kai, well, if I track my net worth, what's going to give me? And again, it's not a life-changing number. But for me, the whole point of investing is to see my net worth grow over time. So it's not so much like an ego number, right? Where I compare myself to others. And if my net worth is higher, I feel better about myself. For some, that might work. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? The same way how people compare themselves by what watch they have or car they drive. I get it. It's just a number. But for me, it's just motivating to see that I'm doing something right with my investments and strategy over time if that number grows. Imagine if I spend all my money, invest it, and do all the things that I do on a regular basis to hopefully improve my finances, and my net worth, my total number, is not growing. Well, that's also a good reflection where at some stage I have to say, what am I doing wrong that it isn't actually growing the way it should be? But let's start off with the basics, and that's tracking your monthly income and expenses. Some people call it a budget. I'm not a huge fan of that. A lot of people say themselves, I have X amount every single month to spend on groceries, on restaurants, on this, on that. And again, it can work if you're completely undisciplined with your money. But I believe that sometimes having these rigid categories, there is no wiggle room, right? Because personally, I like to be a bit more flexible. Maybe 1 month, I'm not really buying anything for myself, but then I have excess money, which I can then spend on going to some fancy restaurants, right? And vice versa. Maybe I don't want to spend on a restaurant or go out and really eat, at home and cook for myself. Well, then maybe I can treat myself for a nice gift or some shopping. So I like to have an overall number in mind, which is based as a percentage of my income, right? But of course, the question is, how do we actually track it? And well, I got a little gift for you, and you can get my net worth and budget tracker for free, which you find down in the description below. This is how it looks, and really don't worry, it might be a little bit overwhelming in the beginning, but once you do it one time, you get a hang of it. And now I do this every single month. On the first day of the month, I go through and complete the entire form. And again, you get the same form. Just make sure as soon as you get the link in your inbox, click on file over here and make a copy to your own drive, and then you can edit it. Otherwise, right now, it's just a template. You can't really edit it. So just make a file to your own template or download it as an Excel file, different ways how to do it. And then it's very simple to use. Now, obviously, in the beginning, you have the summary over here for all the various months. And I really like that because I've done it for a number of years. And I can go back now to 2, 3, 4 years ago and see what was my income in May, what was my expenses, and how much did I profit in that specific month. Because for me, it's important, right? I want every month definitely to be in the green. I don't want to have a single month where I'm in the red. So that's for me important. And of course, naturally, I want my profits to increase over time, right? A lot of people, they know the profits of the companies they're working in, or maybe the companies they're investing in, but their personal profits, they don't. And I think that's super, super important. Once again, just to manage it, right? It's the same way how you take your blood pressure or temperature of your body, and depending on how the numbers look like, you know what to do with it. And the same is true for your finances. So this basically comes automatically. You don't have to do anything over here. The same with your total income percentage and savings rate. I think that's also very important because a lot of people don't know that. Now, I don't place too much importance of that because some people, they save 50%, and that's amazing, right? But if 50% equals to around 400 euros of profit, again, nothing wrong with that. Great. If you're just starting your career, that's nice. That's great money. But, if you're 40 years old, 50 years old, and you're saving 400 euros, as a percentage, while it sounds maybe nice, as a real monetary addition to investments and life quality, again, so don't overvalue the percentage, but still I think it's important to track that. Ultimately for me, it's how much money I put aside on a monthly basis to have to invest and spend on other things that I want to. So basically all you have to do, it's very straightforward. You go over here to the income column and then you see already all the months. So you go month by month. So we're starting off in January over here. And then for most people, I guess it will be a salary job, right? If you're watching this, well, then you're going to put your salary number over here. And I'm a big fan of putting net numbers, right? Some people like to inflate the numbers. I have a 6-figure salary and that's great. And when I first heard, I said 6-figure, wow, that's a lot, 100,000, But then I realized most of them say their gross number. That's before the taxes, right? And some countries, you pay 30, 40, up to 50% taxes on that. So out of 100,000, you pay 50%. It's only 50,000. So divide that by 12. All of a sudden, you're talking about 4,000 something a month. Quite a different number than when you hear a large 6-figure number, right? So it's up to you, but I think it's easier to treat everything in net. So after taxes, so the actual money that you get in your bank account after paying all the taxes. So put a number over here. If you have a salary, maybe self-employed, it's your freelance income, whatever it is, and you can change those columns very easily over here. For myself, obviously, I have YouTube income, affiliate income, different things for my rent also. If you made a copy to your drive, you can also easily delete them, add more lines, whatever it is. Very simple to use. And don't overthink it, right? That really literally just goes in here. If it's your salary, you can already copy paste it to all the various months and just drag it along because probably it's going to be the same for the same year. If you get an increase, you just increase the number. So really don't overthink it. Too many people try to make a PhD out of it or sell you some crazy expensive sheets. It doesn't have to be complicated nor time consuming. And once you've done all that, you have a total income over here, which, is important to know. How much did you earn in 1 month? And I do this every single first of the month. And for me, it's really, really useful to know how much I earned, right? Because I have a lot of different income sources. Actually, I have way more than those listed over here. But again, for you, you may only have one, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people will tell you need 12 different income sources. If each one contributes 100 euros, then maybe. But if you only have one and that pays you a very good income, that's also totally fine, right? Don't get fooled by all these people online telling you need so many different income sources. I do believe it's good to diversify if you only depend on one and that one, stops generating income for you because you lost your job or whatever, that's why it makes sense to diversify, but you don't necessarily need to have 12, 13, 14 income sources. Then we come to the spending part. And that's where I see a lot of people getting scared of, right? Because first of all, imagine so many different categories. These are the categories that I'm tracking on a monthly basis. But again, you might delete a lot of them. You may not have a pet. So take out pet. You don't go to massages, take out massages. Totally fine, right? It's up to you how little or how much you want. Maybe you want to have even more categories. It's really up to you. But one thing, little hack that I want to recommend you is to really use your bank statements to get this information. In many apps these days, like Revolut and so on, they already categorize your spending. So if you buy something from Amazon, usually it will go automatically under shopping. If you order food from Deliveroo or Uber Eats, it will go under deliveries or eating out, whatever it is. So you already have the categories. So at the end of the month, you just open your analytics and then you basically see eating out, 500 euros. You go in here, put 500 euros. Don't overcomplicate it. And you don't have to record every single time you spend money. Because I used to do that in the beginning when I started all that tracking, right? I would go for dinner, the bill came, I paid my bill, and then I would open up a secret sheet and then just put the number over here. And that's even more time consuming and makes you almost feel worse about spending money, right? It feels like double painful, right? You put that number there, you just spent the money and I never really enjoyed it. Then you forget half the time. So it's really not the easiest way. So if you use only one card, it's very easy usually. As I said, they have these categories already. But if you have different cards, what you can do is go into your bank or whatever app you use and export all your last month's transactions. And then again, if you feel comfortable, go off the AI of your choice. I use mostly ChatGPT. You could use Gemini, Claude, whatever works for you. And then upload those documents in there and then ask them to classify them into specific categories. You can even tell them the categories. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 6, maybe copy all of them and say, allocate those spendings into this category, and any transaction that you can't allocate, ask me and I will tell you where to allocate it towards. It will take literally a second and categorize it with the real amounts, and then you have it and then you can go in here. So that's even easier. So basically it would do all the various transactions from, let's say, even 5 different bank accounts. You just upload the Excel or PDF, whatever the bank gives you, you into ChatGPT or any AI of your choice, and it will bring it all together to give you one monthly spending overview. It's a little hack which I really recommend and makes things so much easier. And then basically you come to your total spend for that month, and that gives you the profit, right? Automatically you will have here your income minus expenses, and you will see your profit for the month. And hopefully it's a profit. I hope for you. That's the idea, right? If it is a loss, which can happen, let's be honest, right? Maybe you had an emergency case where you did have higher expenses than your income. It happens, right? It's not the end of the world, but you don't want to have every month a loss, obviously. Automatically the number will be red, so you can easily see that it was not an ideal month, and you can improve on that next month. This is basically all you will do to do your monthly budget. So as I said, it really takes me 10 minutes max to go through, and I really recommend you, especially the longer you do it, you really start seeing patterns, and it's really rewarding to see that number hopefully grow over time. The second part is tracking your net worth. And net worth is basically all your assets, your cash, your investments, anything that you have that you fully own, minus your liabilities. Liabilities are things that you own money to somebody, right? For example, you bought a house a few years ago with a mortgage, and let's say the house has a value of 500,000. That doesn't mean that your assets are 500,000, because probably you still have a mortgage on there. So let's say the mortgage, what you have basically left to pay to the bank, is 200,000. So in this case, your net worth would be 500,000 minus the 200,000 you owe to the bank, gives you a 300,000 net worth or ownership in that property. So that's something to consider here as well. And that's what you will see in that sheet. So when you track your net worth, first of all, you start with your bank, right? So if you have different banks, literally you open any of the banks that you have and write a number down that it tells you the total bank account number that you have over there, right? So let's say you have one bank in one country, it says 10,000 euros, just go in here and put 10,000 euros. You open up your second bank, and basically that way you list all the various cash holdings that you have in your bank, and then that will give you a total cash that you have in banks. If you have only one bank, totally fine. If you have more, you can add more over here. Even Revolut, which I use still, I would of course mention over here. With this, you come to your investments. And for me, that's really interesting because first of all, I see that number hopefully growing over time. But second of all, I use so many different platforms and sometimes also small ones, right? Recently, I opened a new crypto exchange that I didn't really use, but I had to lock up some of my crypto for quite some time to try the platform. And I would almost forget about it. So here, I would just go in here, put that platform name and put the amount. So even if I do forget it, latest next month, I would come back to that and see, yes, I still have, let's say 500 euros sitting over there. And then I can go into the app and withdraw. So that helps you to stay organized, similar to the way you put your bank balance. Here, I just go into my various brokers and exchanges and put the value it is on this day. Now, obviously that fluctuates, right? Maybe on the day when I'm doing this, the markets are up or the markets are down. But over time, it averages out and you start seeing a nice trend, once again, hopefully upwards, but just good to know how much you have totally available for you, right? So all I do is go through all my various holdings, crypto exchanges, hardware wallets, stock brokers, and just put it over here. And then I have investment total value. And lastly, in case you have also maybe some real estate, you could list that over here. And again, obviously it's a little bit harder to track, right? Unless you got a valuation done. Otherwise, what I do personally, I go on some property pages in my area and then go in there, look for the building that I have and similar apartments, see what the average market price is, and then put it over here. And then, once in a while, maybe go in there and update it. But it's not every month that it fluctuates, right? Usually it will remain rather stable. And once again, if you have a mortgage on the property, you could also just deduct it. So imagine your apartment has a value of 100,000 in the market, right? But you still have 40,000 to pay. Then I would just record it over here as 60,000. Just to simplify, don't make it overly complicated. Lastly, again, some of you may have some business assets as well. If you maybe have direct ownership or equity in some businesses, you could put a value to that. But in my case, I leave it empty. And once you complete that, you will have your total net worth, which it will be shown here over time. And as I said, hopefully that number will go up over time. And for me, it's really rewarding, right? I know it's a little bit funny in the beginning when you start off, and if you're a student, probably it's a very small net worth, but there's nothing wrong. You don't compare yourself to other people. You compare yourself to yourself a few months ago, a few years ago. And compared to that, you want to see that number grow, right? If I compare myself to, some tech CEOs in the US, obviously I'm going to feel depressed about myself, right? So that's why it's not the point doing that, but make sure you compare yourself to your past and evolve compared to that going forward. The same how we invest ourselves, going to the gym and looking after health to get healthier, right? I'm not trying to be the next Olympian, but I want to be healthier and stronger than I was in the past. The same is true for my investments. If I don't measure it, I'm just guessing. I'm just feeling, I'm kind of doing okay. What does it really mean, right? You want to quantify it and then work towards actions to optimize and improve your numbers going forward. And lastly, I also track some KPIs, key performance indicators. In my case, is YouTube subscriber growth. By the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, it's a pretty good time to do so. Really appreciate you. But you can change it to really anything, right? Maybe your weight, maybe Instagram followers, whatever it is, just choose a KPI to track it and it will also show you a nice graph over here. And that's really all there is to it. If you do this on a monthly basis, I promise you, you'll be so much ahead of most anybody else. So many people I speak to have no idea about this. And knowing that alone will already put you in a much better financial position than many others. And based on that, you can make smarter decisions, right? Because if you know that constantly you profit more on a monthly basis than you actually thought you did, well, then you can use that excess money to invest into various investments and grow your net worth even faster over time than if you just kept it sitting in the bank account without you knowing it grows, but actually loses value to inflation. So that's really, really crucial to know. Now, another little tip and tool I want to share with you is a subscription tracker specifically. We spoke about tracking your expenses, but let's be honest, a lot of our daily, weekly, monthly expenses are becoming subscriptions. And while they're nice on the one hand side, right, a smaller amount, over time they do add up and can get really expensive. I don't know about you, but in the past I thought I kind of know everything, but then I started listing all my subscriptions down and I was shocked by how much it is. In fact, I can show you how much I'm spending right now on a monthly basis. As you can see over here, my subscriptions are 1,800 euros, which comes to an annual amount of 21,600 euros. Now, granted, of course, I also include some business expenses over here, even things like health insurance, which I have. But again, it's a reality, right? I really consider anything that I have on a monthly basis where I have a contractual obligation to pay that over here. And once again, if you like the sheet, I list it down in the description below. You can get it as a free download. It's a Notion template. If you haven't used Notion, it's really simple to do. It's completely free of charge. You have to pay for anything. And yeah, I really like it because I can also see a calendar view, basically, where you can see what is coming up. And that syncs with my calendar when I have to pay what, right? On the next few days, I can see on the 30th, ChatGPT, SEMrush, Privily, subscription is up. And when I look at it and see my calendar, I say, maybe it's time to actually cancel because I don't want to pay for it anymore. So I'm really on top of things because previously I always got only notified when I was charged, maybe an annual subscription renewal. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't want to pay for this anymore, but then it's already too late. So here, as you can see, I'm really on top of things. I really enjoy that. And I also have all the things that I canceled that I previously had, which I can quickly reinstate. So if I go back to active, for example, and then I can open any of those, for example, Netflix, right? I have it over here. It's active. It's monthly. That's the amount. Is there a yearly option? For some of them, they do, right? And I would tick yearly. So then I would see, okay, I'm paying monthly, but there's a yearly option and I've been paying for a number of months now. Maybe it's time to go for the yearly plan and save. So that's just a good reminder to have it. But in the case of Netflix, they don't. Then I see the charge date. That's important. So whenever you're being charged, just put it once and then it will basically calculate depending whether it's a monthly or weekly. It will basically update it in your calendar. Of course, which card you're using, which is also important because if you have a couple of different ones, you want to stay on top of it, which card is being used. If you want to change it, so you can easily go back and change those over here. Of course, also the purpose, right? Where you're spending things on, that's important. And lastly, whether it's personal or business, because I track both of it in the sheet. You can also put some links, some comments, etc. So really easy to use. And in case, let's say I want to cancel it, right? I'm done with Netflix because I kind of go on and off. If I want to watch a show, Drive to Survive, Formula 1 is coming very soon. So that's where I have it already. But if I don't want to have it anymore, I would obviously cancel it in Netflix and then go in here and go from active to canceled. And boom, it will be out of here. You don't see it anymore. You can see the amount is now being reduced. And if I go into canceled, I would see it as canceled. So really simple, very easy and user-friendly. So I really like that sheet. So obviously, if you only have 2-3 subscriptions, then it may be overkill. But trust me, if you really go through and do it once, you'll be surprised how many subscriptions you might actually end up having. And for me, it really helps me to stay organized and not pay for things I don't want to be paying for anymore. And that brings me to the last part of how I stay organized with my numbers. And that's an investment tracker. For that, I use an app called Delta, and it really helps me to organize all my various stockbrokers, and you can even track other things like crypto and so forth. So really nice tool and interface to bring all those various numbers together. You can check it out and try it for free. Once again, I have a link down in the description below. They also have a web interface where you can see also some market insights and so forth, but I actually mostly use it on my phone on the go. You can see over here the widget called Delta. I can see one of my stockbrokers value. If I click into this, I'm taken basically to the screen. If I shake it over here, you'll see the values. And yeah, right now you can see it's eToro. I can click into the active brokers. So they're all connected. So whenever I buy or sell, it will be live updated over here, trading 212. And then I go into all portfolios and I can see basically my all portfolios. I can quickly change the currency to have it shown to me in euros or in dollars. It's up to you. You can change any of the currencies. You see all the various holdings. I can go into the holding and see what it is. So it really helps me stay organized and bring it all together rather than having to log in each of the individual brokers, which might be a bit complicated and time consuming. That way it's much easier to stay on top of my investments. Now, of course, I could do the same with my cryptocurrency, but honestly, it's a little bit more tricky because I do buy it on different exchanges. I get staking rewards. I get paid partially in cryptocurrency. So it's a bit hard to track individually. And that's why for crypto, I just put the number that I have at the end of the month on the various exchanges and hardware wallets on the net worth tracker that I've shown to you. And then I can see the value, hopefully, of that crypto holding increase over time. Some of it obviously comes from my own contributions. The rest comes from the natural growth over time. So it's maybe not the perfect way, but still it helps me to track and stay on top of how my crypto is developing. Honestly, if you follow those practices that I've shown you today, which will take you a couple of minutes, the first time you do it, maybe a bit longer, but once you get in the habit of it, honestly, it's really quite fast and you'll be far ahead of most other people who have no idea about their finances. And that will help you to make smarter and more educated investment decisions going forward. If you still have any questions about any of the things I mentioned today, pop them in the comments down below. Or maybe you would like to have a more one-on-one conversation with me, a personal consultation, then you'll also find a booking link in the description down below. And I'll be very excited to walk you through any issues that you might be facing. Next up, check out this video over here. As always, thanks a lot for watching. Stay healthy, get wealthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.